Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today's video is going to be me showing you how to replace the bearings and a swivel caster on the front of a zero-turn mower. Let's get started. So first, let me show you what to look for. This one I replaced about 200 hours ago. So this one has 200 hours on it. And see how well that spins. It spins good and smooth. Very little side play. Shouldn't be much. I mean, there's going to be a little bit, but there shouldn't be much. And here's the one that needs to be replaced. Ready? Here we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but it sounds like the bearings are completely shot in it. It's not spinning too well. You can hear it kind of grinding. I've been really busy. I should have done this probably 150 hours ago. They both, that one eventually just completely stopped, okay? And so I had to replace that because what happened, some of the little needle bearings actually fell out of it and it was just grinding on the bolt, destroyed the bolt and everything. I'm imagining that's what happened here. There's like a spacer over the bolt that the bearings actually ride on, but everything was destroyed in that one. And it's probably going to be the same case here because I waited so long. I just had not had time to do this. So check this out. You can hear it grinding and all that. There's a lot of side play. If I use both hands, you can see that gap. This thing would slide back and forth. So that's what that's how you'll know if the bearings are bad. You can kind of, keep it going by packing grease in, but that's just covering up a problem that needs to be addressed. I'm gonna take this bolt off. Hopefully the bolt slides out. If it doesn't, we're gonna have to beat it out. That's what happened last time. Let's get started with that. Okay, so last time what happened was, and by last time I'm talking about the one over there, I did not record that. Sorry, my voice is cracking up. But the sleeve actually welded itself to this bolt. Luckily, this time the bolt came out, and I'm gonna check it real good. I'll put it in a vise or something like that, make sure it's straight. The threads look okay, they're just dirty. You can kind of see some, well, I just wiped it off, but you can kind of see right in there where it was rubbing on it. But I have another bolt, but overall this bolt looks okay. I'll probably reuse this because these bolts are not cheap. I mean, they're like 18 bucks a piece or something. You can kind of see that should not be loose in there like that. That is not good at all. We're gonna take the seal off and hopefully everything comes out. Actually, it looks like everything's coming out on this side. Here's the little spacer deal. Definitely gonna have to replace that. Don't know if you guys can see the wear. Gonna have to replace that. Here's the little spacer I was talking about. I'm gonna have to clean this up really good and check it over, make sure there's not much wear on it. If there's not, I'm gonna just reuse this because these are also very expensive, this little sleeve. I'm thinking it's like 20 bucks as well. I don't know, I'm gonna take this to my workbench and see if we can get the rest of this stuff out. See if I can get this seal off. Might have to get a bigger screwdriver, a longer screwdriver here. Yeah, that's kind of looking like it. Please bear with me, this stuff is not easy to get out once it's been wore in like that. It's not looking good though. Make sure the camera's still on. That doesn't look good at all. It's not supposed to. Look at that. Thing's completely destroyed. That's why it was doing all that wobbling and all. The bearings are, see on the last one, these needle bearings, it actually just fell out. And when I took the bearing out, or when I took this out, all the little needle bearings just fell out and went all over the place. This is the grease. It's gross. Yeah. And here we are. Here's pieces of the other bearing. See the little needles floating around it. So this is almost in the same condition as the other one I took off. Get this cleaned up. Right quick. Here's the other bearing. Yep. This is semi what it's supposed to look like. This is what it looks like. I'm gonna get my slide hammer and knock all this stuff out so we can get a better look. I'll just show you my setup here. I have back clamped, the bottom of this caster clamped in this vise. You don't want to get it too tight as to distort the piece you're clamping. You might have to, you know, retighten it a couple of times, because when you start hammering this, depending on how stuck this is, it might pull it out. But I would rather have to reset this a couple of times than destroy the caster, and these things are not cheap. Nothing's cheap. I'm just gonna say that and stop saying these things are expensive. But this is just a bearing puller. You can get one just about anywhere. I'll link one in my description so you guys can kind of get an idea of what it is. But it's just a collet. You tighten it up. Well, you slide into the bearing and then you tighten this collet up and it expands, and then you can use the hammer to knock the bearing out. I'm gonna set the camera down. Hopefully we can get this thing out pretty easy. Normally they don't come out easy. We'll see. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. I just beat on this thing for probably 5 minutes with a slide hammer. Nothing budged. So I'm moving up to the next step. I sprayed penetrating oil. Let me just show you. I sprayed penetrating oil all in there. I'm gonna let it set for a minute. And this race, the problem is the race is stuck, the bearing race. I sprayed penetrating oil on it. I'm gonna let it sit for a minute. And then what I'm gonna do is turn it around. I'll show you in the video, but I'm just explaining. I'll turn it around, and desperate times call for desperate measures. I've got a chisel and I've got a hammer, and hopefully I can tap all the corners until I can get it loosened up. And once I get it loose, the slide hammer will get it out. It's just, I gotta knock the thing loose. And there's 2 races, one on each side, obviously. You'll see everything in a minute. Let's pray this works. It will. I'll make it. All right, guys. So I let it set for like 5 minutes, whatever, with the penetrating oil. Let's see if the thing will come out now. It's coming loose. I hear it. I think it popped out just now, guys. Let's see. And there we are. Look at that nasty thing. Look at that nasty. We're gonna have to clean all that up. Ew. We got one more to get out. Well, this being the case, you guys don't need a slide hammer. You can just get you a good chisel and a good hammer. You don't need that slide hammer because you can just knock the things out. Usually, if the bearing's still intact, you'll need the slide hammer unless you want to bust it all up, and that's not fun either. But I'd say get the slide hammer just to be safe. If it doesn't work, resort to this. Success. That was a pain in the butt getting that thing out, I'll tell you. Now we got to clean all this crap out so we can put the new bearings in. Alright guys, so I didn't film me cleaning anything up because you guys can kind of figure that out. I got some Totally Awesome, and I pretty much just sprayed the inside of this really well. It was Totally Awesome, and you can see it's pretty good and clean. You don't have to have it spotless. We're not rebuilding like jet turbines or anything here. Once I got that cleaned up, put my grease gun on here and made sure that grease was coming out of the Zerk fitting. There was actually a needle bearing stuck in it. That wouldn't have caused any kind of issues because grease guns have a lot of pressure. It would have just pushed it right on out, but I just thought that was kind of funny. For this, I just sprayed the Totally Awesome on it, wiped it off really good, and I got a Scotch-Brite pad and kind of cleaned everything up. In the other case, as I mentioned before, this was actually bent, and I had to make one. Luckily, I was able to make one because these things, like I said, are not cheap. But you just want to make sure that this is going to slide on and off the bolt. which it does. It slides on and off pretty easily, so you don't have to worry about anything there. But if it doesn't, you'll have to get a new one of these, or a new bolt, or both. Make sure the nut and everything, the threads were clean. Make sure that I've cleaned the threads with the wire brush. So make sure there wasn't any debris in there. Next step, we're gonna get the bearings, and we're gonna pack them with grease, because it's always a good idea, especially with dry bearings like this. Once we pack these with grease, we're gonna get the races. We're gonna put them in the wheel. Then we're gonna drop the bearings in there and assemble everything. I'm gonna preload these. I'll just put some oil on there, and I'll oil this in real good just to make sure everything slides in easier than it would if it was dry. And like I said, we'll preload these. I'll just get my grease gun, put grease along it, and you just literally get your fingers and you force the grease. Actually, you want to do it that way, not that way. You want to put grease on it and just force the grease out with your fingers, like so. You guys will see me. And another kind of cool trick, this is a 1 1/4 inch socket. Depending on your wheel size, you'll probably have a different size socket. But see how that fits in there just right? So when we put our race on there, you put this on top of your race, and then you can just tap it in with a rubber mallet. You want to use rubber or brass to prevent damaging your socket. I think I explained everything. And then after that, we'll put the dust caps on and everything. But let's get started with that. Alright guys, so you saw me get everything back assembled the way it should be. And I pumped it full of grease. You don't want to pump it full of grease so much it blows the seals out that you put in. But that oil that I put on it, the reason I did that is because when you start pumping grease in, the stuff's sealed, right? And it's almost airtight. It's not quite airtight. But once you start pushing grease in it, once it starts to get full, you'll hear the oil seeping out. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense to me. But when you put the grease in and it starts pushing the oil out, then you know it's about full. You'll also kind of feel some back pressure on your grease gun, and you'll know it's full of grease. So it's really important to keep these greased. You don't want to grease them too much because you don't want to blow the seals out, but you do want to keep them greased. Let's go ahead and get this thing mounted, and I'll explain a little bit more. It's probably a good idea to clean all that grass and stuff off before you go and get junk all in your threads again, so you don't have to double clean it like I'm having to do. And I get most of it. Now, what I want to mention right here, you don't want to get this so tight that it pinches the wheel. Okay? Look how smooth that is. But you don't want to get it so tight that it pinches the wheel. I used an impact to take it off just because that was fast. But to put it back on, I'm going to use a wrench and a ratchet. You can use 2 wrenches. You can use whatever. Just, you don't want to use anything that's going to tighten it too much. So, see how it stopped right there? It's starting to pinch. So that means we need to back off on it a little bit. And there you go. Alright guys, let's do a comparison. This is the one I replaced maybe, like I said, 100 and something hours ago. It's good and smooth, no wobbles. And here's the one we just replaced. And you guys remember how bad it was earlier. It was awful. You know, you could hear it rubbing, it was wobbling and all that stuff. Look at that. Smooth as butter. Hope you guys got something out of that. It wasn't too bad of a job. Out of all the things, the dust cap was so hard to get in for whatever reason. I actually went up a socket until I got it flush, and then I went down a socket and forced it the way in. I'll put links in the description of the, you know, like a slide hammer. I got the slide hammer at Harbor Freight if you want to go there. But I'll put a link in the description of one that's kind of similar to it. And I'll put a link to the bearings. I didn't use OEM bearings. I used a brand off of Amazon that was significantly cheaper. And they seem to be heavy duty. And like I said, that one's holding up so far. Just keep greasing it and make sure everything's smooth. Don't let it get as bad as I did, especially the first time. Because like I said, I had to, you know, completely replace the steel spacer and the bolt and everything. This time, luckily, I didn't. Save me some money. But like I said, hope you guys got something out of it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.